Okay, and so on this topic, you may have damage to your home, you may have damage on your property, and you may be looking to hire someone to, come and fix that, whether that's, repairs on your home, cleaning up trees. But when we do talk about this, hiring services after some sort of large storm, a lot of the time, unfortunately, we hear about some sort of scam or people being taken advantage of due to, hiring someone who didn't have good intentions or something along that line. So I'm joined now live on Zoom by Katie Grievous with the Better Business Bureau here in West Michigan. Katie, thanks so much for being with us here on the air.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And Katie, you and I have talked about this many times on stories that I've done for our help team here at 13 on Your Side. But I'll have you walk us through, what is typical? We have this large weather event, lots of people in need of hiring some kind of service. Can you talk a little bit about just how this does bring that rise in maybe fraudulent activity or scams of some sort with services?
Yeah, absolutely. So, after a big storm like this, people start to panic and they really want to get that damage taken care of, that cleanup taken care of, get that off their plate, get back to their normal lives. And we do see a lot of small businesses in the communities reaching out, offering to help right away, which is absolutely fabulous. But unfortunately, businesses with bad intentions and scammers also recognize this, especially when we're warned ahead of time that these storms are coming, and they try to reach out and they try to take people's money and then not complete those jobs or do a subpar job. They're unlicensed, and then people are not only still left with that damage and that cleanup, but they have to pay twice to get it fixed.
Yeah, and I know that unfortunately this is something that can happen all the time. When it comes to, okay, I recognize that I need some work done, on my property, whatever that is, things to be keeping in mind for people when they're choosing, someone who they are going to hire. What kinds of things to keep in mind there? I know one of them is, not getting rushed into anything, but I know you have a bunch more sort of pointers for folks.
Absolutely. First thing you should do is call your insurance, find out what's actually covered and how that process works. They may have a list of recommended construction roofers or, putting on new siding, something like that, or they may say you can pick someone yourself. So knowing kind of what is going to be covered, what's going to come out of pocket is going to help you moving forward first. Then once you do that, then you want to start to look at the different companies that you may need for your needs. Tree trimmers and yard pickup, they don't really need a license to operate in Michigan. But if you're getting your roof redone or you're getting some siding done or there's damage to windows, some of those do need a license. So it's really important that you take that time, you vet those companies, you make sure they're actually licensed, make sure that they, have a good reputation, maybe try to get some quotes, try to talk to some other customers. I know time is not on your side necessarily in these situations. So it's important that you're proactive and you do a little bit more of that research before you just sign anything away. And then you want to make sure that you're not paying the full price up front right away. That's a huge red flag. Contractors and sometimes, yard work and tree trimmers, they may need some sort of down payment to reserve your spot, something like that. That totally makes sense. But if it's more or the entire scope of work that you're paying for upfront, that's a huge red flag. We see a lot of scammers and bad businesses ask for that money up front, offer these really great low prices, these awesome deals that are only good for the next day or two because of the storm. Those are some other red flags that, maybe we want to steer clear of. A legitimate and a good company, they're going to make it work with you however they can. Yes, their schedules may be a lot more busy right now because they are helping an entire community with these different projects. But if they're only offering those specials right away, that's shady in itself. You want to work with a company that wants to help you, not try to take advantage of you. And then you want to get everything in writing. And this goes beyond scams. A lot of these companies are small businesses, they're single entities, and they're human. They make mistakes. So having things in writing not only makes sure that you understand what the scope of work is going to be, but they understand what you're expecting. So if along the way anything goes wrong or there's any sort of, misconception, it can be cleared up very easily and not a surprise at the very end when payment is due and things like that. And then the Better Business Bureau always recommends that when you are paying for this type of work, Try to use a credit card if you can, just because credit cards offer so much extra protection, but we understand that that's not always reasonable in these situations. So don't sign your insurance checks over directly to these companies. Just pay them and then cash that insurance check yourself. Try to write a check, try to keep some sort of paper trail so that you have proof of all the work that was done, what you were expected to have done, and all of those things, so that if in the end something does go wrong, you have all of that proof with you and you don't have to try to use word of mouth or he said, she said to try to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, so much good information. And, similar to what you were talking about, when we work on these stories for our help team, a lot of the times, we need to be able to see that contract or something. And if there's, not a contract of some sort, it's very difficult for us to help in those situations just because we have to be able, to prove what was paid for or not done. So ultimately, from the get-go, having that contract is what's best for you at home. Also, what's best for that company. They want some sort of binding document. And I know as well, you can have companies that are trying to rush you into something, which again, a warning sign as we mentioned, but doing that research beforehand is something that's big as well. Checking social media, checking reviews, and then also checking on the Better Business Bureau website, because that's where you're going to see how complaints were handled, if there were even any complaints, and that reputation that a business has. So as when folks are choosing a company, just utilizing those resources, I know you guys say is big as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, the Better Business Bureau, we check the licenses of all the accredited businesses every single year. So, that if you find that BBB seal on a company's website, on our website, that we already did some of that vetting for you. And that kind of takes some of that time out of that research, especially if you are in a time crunch and you're trying to figure things out. We've done a little bit of that work for you. So you can already check that off of your list, and it makes your life a little bit easier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie, I so appreciate you walking us through. This is such valuable information that I know people are going to be using, likely for the next couple of weeks as we have to clean up from what happened Sunday. Hopefully we don't see quite as severe a situation on Wednesday, but it is possible. So thank you so much for joining us live here and walking us through all those tips. And I know that if you'd like more information as well, you can always go on the Better Business Bureau's website for a really extensive look at things to keep in mind. But we will let you go. Katie, thanks so much for joining us here.
Thank you so much for having me.